Hey everyone, Kavemi here with another Reddit story. Today's is about a guy who spent his whole life as his family's afterthought. But when his sister tried to take what he worked for, he finally refused to be their backup plan. It's a tale of emotional independence and setting firm boundaries. Settle in, enjoy the Minecraft in the background, and let's get into it. The title is, My Sister Demanded My Home for Her Family. I refused, and she drowned in bills. You're single, you don't need a whole place. That's what my sister told me when she tried to take the home I bought. I refused, and she ended up drowning in bills. I'm the older brother, 29, and my younger sister, now 27, has always been the golden child. To understand the whole story, you have to go back to the very beginning. My parents had me while they were still getting their careers sorted out. 3 years later, my sister was born. From the start, it was clear who the favourite was. My parents were polite to me, but as soon as my sister arrived, everything seemed to revolve around her. People noticed it too. Relatives would comment on how much attention she got, but my parents would just laugh it off. The preference was obvious even in our childhood. My birthdays were small, with a homemade cake, while my sisters had rented venues and long guest lists. When I asked why, my dad said, "You're older now." I was 8, she was 6. It was the same with toys. I saved for months for a skateboard. She mentioned wanting a bike and had one by the weekend. My mother's reasoning was always, "She's younger, let her have it." School was the same story. I got great grades and went on to get a good job later on. My sister would bring home average papers or a painting, and it would go right on the fridge. I took second place in a science fair, but my father didn't attend because he had to work. She had a single line in a school play, and both my parents left work early to be there. My mum's excuse was, she gets nervous, she needs the support. I was a good kid who stayed out of trouble, did well in school, and helped out at home. But my parents acted like I didn't need attention. I was fine. While my sister was always the special one or the baby, I was constantly told, "You're older, you should understand," or "She's younger, let her have it," as if my only purpose was to support her. By middle school, the dynamic was mostly set. My sister was the main character of our family. I was just there to help out and not make things complicated. At that age, you start to notice the little things more, and there were a lot of them. In 7th grade, I wanted to enter a science competition and build a solar-powered car, but it had a fee and required supplies. When I asked at dinner, my dad said it was too expensive, and my mum told me to forget about it. A week later, my sister signed up for a dance camp that cost twice as much, and they paid for it without hesitation. I ended up building a basic version of the car out of scrap parts in our garage. I couldn't compete, but my teacher was impressed that I tried. That's when I realised that if I wanted something, I had to get it myself. But home life was about more than just money. It was about how they treated us. If my sister made a mess, I was expected to clean it. If something went missing, it was assumed to be my fault. She once left an open juice box on the couch which stained the fabric. My mum called me from my room and told me to clean it up. I said it wasn't me. She said, "I know, but she's tired. Just do it." That was normal. She also had a habit of talking back. She would argue, roll her eyes and slam doors. My parents called it attitude. If I did anything like that, it was disrespectful, and I'd lose privileges. There were times my dad would pull me aside and say things like, "She's your little sister. You have to keep the peace. Don't antagonise her." It didn't matter who started it. It was always my job to smooth things over. At school, I started to notice how my life was different from some of my friends. Their parents would show up at their basketball games, help with projects, and ask how they were doing in class. At my house, most of the conversations with me were commands. Take out the trash. Help your sister with her homework. Don't stay out too late. My sister was always getting questions and praise. How was your day? What do you want for dinner? You did so well. By the age of 16, I stopped expecting anything from my parents and focused on myself. I mowed lawns, took odd jobs, saved my money, and bought my own things. My sister still got everything handed to her, and she would even joke, "I'm the favourite." My parents would just smile. I just stayed quiet, knowing that speaking up wouldn't change anything. By the time high school started, I had stopped asking for things. I rarely went on school field trips because I knew the answer would be no. The class once went to a science museum, which cost about $30. I didn't even bring it up. I used to think money was tight, but then I'd see my parents take my sister shopping for new clothes or electronics. Once I overheard my mum on the phone with a family friend. She said, "He's fine. He doesn't need much. She's the one we have to focus on. She's more sensitive." I think that's how they saw me, as someone who didn't need help or attention. But I did. I had just learned not to expect it. By sophomore year, I had started looking for ways to make my own money. I'd shovel snow, mow lawns, and walk dogs. It wasn't a lot, but it gave me some control. If I wanted a book or a new video game, I'd buy it myself. My parents thought it was responsible, and they'd say they were proud of my independence. They didn't realise it was because I had no other choice. Meanwhile, my sister just kept getting what she asked for. If she wanted to join a new club, they'd pay. If she wanted to quit something, they'd say that was fine. She also enjoyed showing off. She'd tell me, "Mom and Dad said I'm special." I'd ignore it, but it stuck with me. One last thing from that time. There was a career fair at my high school. I really wanted to go because some tech companies were going to be there. It was a Saturday event, and I asked my dad for a ride. He said he was busy driving my sister to a friend's party. My mum just told me to take the bus. I went anyway, but the bus route was slow, so I missed the first part. When I got home, my sister was telling them about how much fun she had at the party, and my parents were beaming as they listened. I didn't even mention the fair. By the end of high school, I had stopped expecting them to show up for anything important to me. I kept my head down, worked when I could, and planned to move out as soon as possible. When I graduated from high school, I knew I couldn't depend on my parents for anything. They helped pay for some of my college, but anything else I needed came out of my own pocket. My sister had just turned 17 and already had a used car my parents had bought for her. I asked if I could borrow it for prom, but the answer was no because she might need it. I ended up getting a ride with a friend. It didn't bother me much at the time. I had learned to handle things on my own. I was accepted into a good state university. Nothing fancy, but it was solid, and it was in a different city, which was important to me. I wanted space. My parents made a big deal about how they couldn't afford much help, and that I needed to be responsible. I got financial aid and a small scholarship. They paid for my books for the first semester, but I covered the rest, including housing, food and transportation, with a combination of part-time jobs and money I had saved up from mowing lawns and doing odd jobs in high school. My sister, on the other hand, got a big good luck dinner when she started community college later. When I left for school, it was just a quick goodbye. The first year was tough, but I learned a lot. I worked nights at a coffee shop near campus. On weekends, I took shifts at a bookstore. My grades were consistent, but I couldn't go to as many parties or hang out as much as some of my classmates. I didn't mind. It felt good knowing that I earned what I had. I had a strict budget. I kept a notebook with every expense, even down to the smallest snack. I quickly learned that if you don't track your money, it just disappears. When I wanted a new phone or a better laptop, I planned months in advance. In the meantime, my sister remained the centre of my parents' attention. She switched majors twice before deciding school wasn't for her. She lived at home without paying rent, and they bought her a new car because the old one wasn't reliable. I found out about it when my mum called me to ask for help setting up the Bluetooth. It didn't surprise me. During family dinners, she would complain about being bored or wanting to travel. My parents would nod and say, "We'll figure something out." When I mentioned that I was taking 16 credits and working 30 hours a week, they just said, "You've always been good at managing things." By my sophomore year, I got a better job. One of my professors helped me get a position as an assistant at a small tech company downtown. It paid more than the coffee shop, and the owner was flexible with my class schedule. I kept my bookstore shifts on weekends. Most days, I'd leave my apartment at 8 a.m. and get back after dark, but my savings grew. I created my first real bank account and started putting money into a small emergency fund. I remember sitting at my small desk, proud of the $600 I had managed to keep untouched. It wasn't a lot, but it was mine. The lack of support from my family didn't bother me anymore. It had become normal. I rarely called home except for birthdays and holidays. My parents would ask how school was going, and then immediately start talking about my sister's latest plans. She worked at a boutique for a month before quitting because she didn't like the hours. My mum told me she just needed to find her passion. I was tempted to say that I didn't exactly love working double shifts either, but I stayed quiet. By my junior year, I had everything streamlined. I moved into a cheaper apartment with 2 roommates, sold my old bike, and used the money I had saved to buy a used car. It wasn't fancy, but it was reliable. Every dime counted. I found freelance work online, simple data entry, proofreading, or anything that paid. I also started reading about investing. Nothing major, just the basics like saving, budgeting, and compound interest. I didn't have much, but I liked the idea of being prepared. My parents threw a huge party for my sister's 19th birthday. She got a new laptop and a week-long trip to the beach with her friends, all paid for. I wrote her a simple card that said, "Happy birthday." I didn't have a party when I turned 21. I celebrated by working a shift and getting takeout with a friend. It didn't hurt. It was just the way things were. My parents had different standards for us. They always have. I just made sure to stay focused. By the time I was about to graduate, I had saved enough for a down payment on an apartment and had paid off my small student loans. I didn't tell my parents right away. I waited until I had the keys in my hand. Then, I sent a group text with a picture of myself standing in front of the building. Finally got my own place. It took a while, but here we are. The responses were predictable. My mum said, "Congrats, when are you having us over?" My dad wrote, "Good job. Your sister will want to see it too." My sister's text said, "Finally, took you long enough." I invited them over for a weekend lunch. I cooked, kept things simple, and gave them a tour. My mum immediately commented on how bright and open it was, and how it would be perfect for a young family. My dad asked about the 3rd bedroom, the guest room and my office. My sister interrupted before I could answer. "It's obviously wasted space. I can just picture a crib in there." I joked, "Good thing I bought it for me, not for you to play dollhouse." She rolled her eyes. "You don't even have anyone. It's just you. It's kind of selfish to have a whole place like this to yourself." My dad gave me a look as if I should just ignore her. I didn't. Yeah, I worked 3 jobs and skipped vacations so I could selfishly buy something with my own money. Shocking, right? My mum changed the subject, but I recognised the tone. They were impressed, but they couldn't give me full credit. They asked about the cost of furniture, and then my dad added, "Well, at least it's in a good location. Easy to sell when you upgrade. Maybe your sister can use it if she needs something short term." I laughed again. "Yeah, if she can pay market rent and sign a lease." They didn't like that. My mother said, "You're so sarcastic. We're just saying families help each other." "Exactly," I replied. "I helped myself because no one else was offering." They fell silent after that. Lunch was fine, but the comments continued. My sister would send texts like, "When I get my own place, it's going to be bigger." Or, "Nice apartment. Could use more colour though." I would just send a thumbs up emoji or say, "Great, let me know when that happens." Months later, during another family dinner, things flared up again. My sister was talking about how expensive everything was. She complained about rent and gas, saying, "It must be nice to have a free place." I said, "It's not free. The bank loves getting my monthly payments." My dad interjected, "She just means you don't have to worry about moving. It's easier for you." "Yeah," I replied. My sister glared. "It's easier when you plan ahead and don't quit every job you get." "You think you're better because you bought a box with windows?" she asked. "Better than complaining about a box I don't own," I said. My mum told us to stop. "You two are always at each other's throats. Your sister is just stressed." "She's always stressed," I said. "Maybe that's because you keep paying for her stuff." My dad said sharply, "Enough. We help her because she needs it." "Right," I said, "and I managed because no one helped me. Got it." The room went silent. My sister said something about me being selfish. I just said that if being selfish meant not relying on your parents at the age of 25, then I was guilty. Despite the tension, I didn't ask them for anything. I didn't bring up my finances. I stayed focused on my job. Everything was going well. Meanwhile, my sister continued to drift. She worked a series of short-term jobs and wrote online about how difficult the economy was. Every time I went home, my parents talked about her plans and her big dreams, and they rarely asked about mine. I didn't care anymore. I was confident in what I was doing. But the hints didn't stop. My mum would suggest, "When you settle down, maybe your sister could stay at your place for a while." My dad would joke, "Hope you have a spare key." My sister would giggle, "Yeah, you should keep it clean for when I need it." I gave the same response every time. Not happening. I worked for it. One night, my dad called unexpectedly. My sister needed a place to stay after a breakup. He asked if she could stay at my apartment for a few weeks. I said, "No. She's your sister," he said. "She's also an adult," I replied. "She's got 2 parents and a bus pass. She'll be fine." He didn't like that. "You've changed." "No," I said. I just stopped being the backup plan. I felt the sting of his words, but I didn't feel guilty. I was clear from the beginning. What I built was mine. They had decades to treat me like family. They chose to treat me like I was support staff. Now I was just giving them that same energy back. Months later, I had everything running exactly as I had intended. Work was steady. I had savings. My place was decorated just right and felt like mine. My sister, meanwhile, was still at home. She had been through 3 jobs and a short-lived relationship that ended badly. My parents still treated her as if she were frail, while I was the responsible one. Then came the family barbecue. It was late July. Everyone was there, parents, aunts, uncles, and cousins. I showed up with some drinks and side dishes. My sister arrived last, with her arm around her new partner. The whole family surrounded her, as if she were the guest of honour. 2/3 of the way through, she stood up with a huge smile. "I have some news," she announced, holding up her glass. "We're having a baby." Everyone cheered, hugged her, and congratulated her partner. I went over and said, "Congratulations. I hope you're ready for no sleep." She smirked. "Well, I'll have plenty of help, right?" I didn't think much of it. The night went on. Then my aunt asked, "So, are you two still planning a wedding?" My sister said, "Yeah, but the timeline is complicated now." She turned to me, smiling a little too sweetly. "Actually, this is the perfect time to bring this up. I've been thinking about your apartment. It would be the perfect place for us. Close to everything. Plenty of space for the baby." I was almost laughing, thinking it was a joke. "Good thing I bought it for myself and not as a rental," I said. She scowled. "I'm serious. We can't stay with Mum and Dad forever. I need a safe space, and you have that extra room you don't even use." "You're right," I said. "It's for my office and my stuff. It's amazing how people use rooms in their own homes." She rolled her eyes. "Come on. You don't even have a family. It's just you. This would really help me out. I worked 3 jobs for years to get it. Maybe you could try that method." My mum got involved. "She's asking because she needs it. You're single. You can wait a little while to get another one." She was staring me down. "Wait, you want me to hand over the place I bought because she's pregnant?" My dad added, "She's starting a family, that's more important right now. You'll understand when you have kids." I shook my head. "So all those years I was on my own, working, paying rent, saving, none of that counted. But she gets pregnant and suddenly my hard work belongs to her." My sister crossed her arms. "Don't make it a big deal. You can rent somewhere else for a year or 2. We'll take good care of your place." I laughed. "Yeah, because you're famous for taking good care of things, like that job you quit after 4 weeks or the car you totaled." "Wow," she said loudly. "So you're just going to hold that over me forever? I thought family helped each other." "They do," I said, "when it's a 2-way street, not when it's a 1-way handout." My mother's face hardened. "You always have to bring up the past. She's asking for help during a hard time." Hard time was all I said. They made a decision. I didn't sign anything. I am not their safety net. My dad's voice got louder. "Don't talk like that. She's your sister. Show some respect." I stood up. Respect works both ways. Respect my work, my money, and my home. The table fell silent. My sister started crying. "You're so selfish. You've always been like this. It's just one thing, and you can't do it for me." "One thing? You've had everything since you were a kid. The parties, the car, the attention. I got lectures. And now you want my place?" She got furious. "Fine. Keep your stupid apartment. Don't expect us at your next big moment. We won't bother." "Trust me," I said. "I stopped expecting you years ago." My mother muttered something about me being cold. My dad just shook his head as if I were a disappointment. I gathered my stuff. I came here to eat a burger, not to be shamed for owning something. As I walked away, my sister called after me. "You're going to regret this when you are alone." I turned back. Better alone than broke and bitter. That was the last time I tried to be polite about it. The texts started the next day. My dad wrote, "She cried all night. I hope you're happy." My mum said, "We raised you better than this." My sister sent a wall of text about how I ruined her pregnancy joy. I didn't respond. 3 days later, my sister called to say, "Fine, I don't want it anymore, but you could at least give us money to get a place." I chuckled. "You want me to pay you because I said no to giving you my home? That's creative." She hung up. After that, the family group chat turned sour. My parents acted distant. They implied that I had become a snob. I didn't care. I had a job, savings, and my own space. I had worked for it. I wasn't going to give it up because someone else couldn't manage their own life. After the barbecue, I decided to draw a hard line. I didn't respond to any more guilt texts. My sister remained angry. My parents were cold. At first, I thought everything would just blow over. Instead, they doubled down. They started telling family members about how selfish I was. A cousin messaged me, "What's going on? Your mum said you wouldn't let your sister stay with you." I just said, "I bought my own home after years of working. They think it's theirs." Which is not the case. Most of my cousins agreed with me. Some people even commented, "Yeah, your parents have always babied her." That was nice to hear, but I didn't need it. Work was my safe place. I put in more hours, took on new tasks, and got noticed. A few months later, my manager called me about another promotion. It came with a raise and more flexibility. I decided to celebrate, but this time I didn't invite my parents or sister. I hosted a small get-together with my friends and a few supportive relatives. Everyone else sent their congratulations. My parents didn't even text. My sister made a comment online about families who forget who's important, which I ignored. Then things changed. I started learning from my cousin that my parents were hinting at financial issues. I found out they were covering a lot of my sister's expenses. She had quit another job during her pregnancy because it was too stressful. They were paying a portion of her rent, her car insurance, and her medical bills. My dad had even started dipping into his retirement savings. I stayed out of it. Every time I got a cryptic text like, "Your sister's having a hard time," I replied, "Hope she figures it out." A month before the baby was due, my mum called me for the first time in weeks. She asked, "Could you just loan your sister a little bit, just until things settle down?" I said, "You mean give her money so she doesn't have to manage her own life for 3 months?" She replied, "You've changed. You used to care." I responded, "I learned who cared about me. It wasn't you." She hung up. The baby arrived. Everyone acted like it was a royal event. I sent a small gift with a short message. "Congrats, hope the baby's healthy." My sister texted back, "Wow, that's it." I left it on read. As the months went by, it became clear that things were not going well for them. The boyfriend had inconsistent work. The bills piled up. They ended up moving back in with my parents. When money became tight, the wedding plans fell apart. I learned this from my aunt, who said, "Your parents are so stressed. Your dad is covering everything." I just said they made their choices. I wasn't gloating, it was just a fact. Then came the moment that settled it for me. My dad called again, his tone softer this time. He said, "We might have been a little hard on you. We didn't realise how much you did on your own." He asked if I could contribute a small amount each month until they were back on their feet. I almost laughed. So after years of hearing "you're fine, you can handle it," I'm now supposed to be the one who carries you all? No thanks. He said it was family. I replied, "Exactly. Family supports, not drains. I learned that from you." That ended the call. The real satisfaction came later. My company had a big end-of-year event. They recognised certain employees for major contributions. I was one of them. My photo was on a screen, and my name was mentioned in front of the whole company and some local media. They gave me a huge bonus. I shared one photo online of myself beaming with the trophy. I didn't tag anyone. The comments poured in from friends, co-workers, and old classmates. My sister didn't say a word. My mum liked the post but never commented. My dad stayed silent. When I saw them at a Christmas dinner months later, the vibe was different. They were polite and quieter than usual. My sister barely spoke to me. My dad asked about work in a neutral tone. My mum mostly talked about the baby. Nobody mentioned the apartment. Nobody asked for money. It was as if they already knew the answer. My sister whispered, "You must feel pretty proud." I said. Not proud, just glad I stopped waiting for anyone's approval. My dad just slightly shook his head but didn't argue. My mum gave me a quick hug and whispered, "Drive safe." That was it. Looking back, I don't think I ever got the apology I deserved. But I have something better. Distance, control, and proof that I can build a life without them. The child who was told to understand while his sister got all the attention grew up to be a man who didn't need their attention at all. They're still the same people. She's still entitled. They're still enabling. But none of that matters anymore. I have my place, my job, and my peace. When I lock my door at night, I remember that every piece of furniture, every bill paid, and every inch of that apartment is a result of my own efforts. That wraps up today's story. Thanks for hanging out with me while we went through all that family drama. Kavemi here, signing off. Let me know in the comments what you thought about it. And stick around for more stories with the usual Minecraft vibes in the background. I'll see you in the next one. Next.